I think one of the reasons is that Python was very carefully designed around the grammar. So there is very specific technical restrictions about what can be implemented as opposed to other languages like C++ or Java, when it's a bit more like there is no limitations in what you can implement in the grammar itself. But Python has been created with very carefully thinking about how people will read it, but also very specific technical decisions have been taken to make sure that the evolution of the language will be constrained in a way that very complicated constructs are not allowed. So I think that the thing has percolated over what we know as Python today, so in a way that is very easy to learn from, even from people that don't know Python at all. That's a very good question. I think the main problem with that is not the programming language, which is a problem by itself because you need like to have a eye-catching grammar, because we have a lot of languages today, right? It's more about everything else, because at the end, sure, you came up with a language and maybe it's understandable, but it's going to be very similar to another kind of languages, so you need to offer something new, right? Like, so for example, some new languages that we have seen, like Rust, the grammar is not the kind of carrot for people to go in, right? It's what else it offers, right? Like in the case of Rust, it offers like memory security and all other things that people really love in programming system programming languages. But the problem is precisely finding those gaps in what people need and finding a way to convey those needs into very specific constructs in your language, and then adding some grammar which is not super complicated for people to understand. Sadly, no. I mean, those are not public. There is obvious ways to change the grammar for us core developers. So we can basically, if we decide that Python should have a new kind of syntax, for example, in the new release we have two new rules. So there is tools for us, like particularly I'm working with the parser, so there is tools for modifying the parser and generate it automatically, but not for developers themselves. Like Python has run out of the world of DSL, so people kind of like, there's other languages which this is very easy, right? Like you implement your kind of extension in your case you want to implement your domain specific language, but Python is not of them. And I think is this desire to maintain the purity and the easiness, so people recognize some code and says, oh, this is Python, right? And not some other weird extension. Although we see people trying to fight that a bit. Actually, that's a very old battle of mine. So there is a very specific case. Python 3 allows to have multiple context managers in the same with statement, so with, and then you put a bunch of context managers. So sadly, if your list is so gigantic that you need to split it in multiple lines, you need to use the continuation like the slash to continue to the next line, and that basically breaks indentation. And there is very nice, the same problem in other parts of the language is managed with parentheses, right? Like you surround your expression with parentheses, and even auto-formatters and things that will nicely indent your code recognize that, and they format it nicely. But sadly, the limitations that we talked before that make Python so simple and that those constraints stay in place are also limiting this particular case, so we need to use the stupid slash. I always recommend people to try, like core developing in particular is a very long path, like it's multi-year path and there's a lot of effort there. So I always suggest if someone wants to get into open source, they will try with maybe other projects which are less taxing, especially because in CPython core there is very low long hanging fruit. So it's a bit difficult to start in and jump into. But sure, one of the benefits, for example, is that you are able to work with an incredible amount of talent, right? Like, for example, you can work together with Guido Androsun, which is the creator of Python, Yuri Shelivanov, Victor Stiner, like it's people that are super smart and inventive, and you can work together and learn a lot. And it's something that I miss from companies, no matter how big they are.